Hi, I'm Tyler, and welcome to another episode of my Christian Music Week reviews. Each week I take 5 releases, albums, EPs, or singles, and after having listened to them all week, I come back here and I review them. I share what I think about them. So without further ado, let's get to this week's first release, Jon Foreman's new EP, Departures. Jon Foreman's new solo album, Departures, and yes, he is the lead singer of Switchfoot. Let's talk about it. So stylistically here we have acoustic guitar, but some electric and bass too, and then we have piano, drum, violin, and as for the lyrics here, touches on a few different themes. Talks about looking to heaven as our home beyond this world. Also talks about how God holds the weight of this world in his hands. He has it in his hands, excuse me, as messed up as this world can be. And also talks about losing ourselves when we love each other when we love others as who they authentically are. Up next, Rhett Walker's new single, Gospel Song. Rhett Walker's new single, Gospel Song. Let's talk about it. So, stylistically here, kind of a pop rock meets southern rock track. Instrumentally here we have bass guitar, electric guitar, drum, bass, organ, and even a gospel choir. I mean, it is called Gospel Song after all, right? And as for the lyrics, he talks about how instead of hearing about his problems, he needs to hear the gospel. Up next, Love and Death's new album, Perfectly Preserved. Perfectly Preserved, the first album in 8 years from Korn guitarist Brian Head Welch's Christian side project, Love and Death. Let's talk about it. So, pretty heavy album overall here. The only lighter track on this album is the opening track. Other than that, everything is pretty heavy on here. As for what influences that, electric guitar, bass guitar, drum, and some piano and stuff at some points too. Also, as for vocals here, we have screams and growls from Brian Head Welch on screams and or growls from Brian Head Welch on every single track here on this album. And also Brian Head Welch does sing vocals too. Either way that Brian does it, he has a pretty good voice here on this album. Also, J.R. Barias from Spoken contributes some singing vocals on here as well. And as for the lyrics here, talks about these lies that push him further into the dark, and it's tough for him to break free. And he needs God not to give up on him and show him that he's alive. Up next, Ty Brazel's new single. So, before I dive into my thoughts on Ty Brazel's new single, Destiny, let me just say this was initially released on YouTube, and then last week you put it out on Spotify, so that's why this song is part of this week's video. Just a little fun fact for you there. And now let's dive into the sound here. So we have bass, synth, 808, keyboard. We have sing rapping and singing. And as for the lyrics here, he talks about how he's back in his element. He's got to get his destiny with God's help, and he can't be stopped. Up next, our last release for today, BrvndonP's new EP. Brandon P's new EP, Borderline. Let's talk about it. So, has lighter hip hop and R&B influence here? Definitely. We have bass, drum, bass guitar, piano, rapping, and singing. And as for the lyrics here, overriding theme is that he loves this girl. It's all about him and her being together, and also talks about how he's been made new and how God has brought him up from his down past, and also tells those who don't understand what he's been through not to kill his vibe. Well, that's it for this week. Come back next week for 5 more releases. If you like what you saw in this video, please subscribe. Also, if you have any thoughts on today's releases or any releases that came out today that you want to see in next week's video, let me know that in the comments below. Also, you can check out my Music Muffin Streams playlist on Spotify and here on YouTube Music. Just go to my playlist section for that. If you like Aaron Shoes, this is a good enough for you to check it out. And also, wanted to let you know that every week I drop videos at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time. Sorry, this is coming out a little later today, but hope you still enjoyed this video. Well, I'll go now. See you next week. Bye.